Hi, everybody. Welcome to another God's Good Table YouTube Live. We're so happy to have you here. And this is our first program after our most recent Health and Healing God's Way conference at Melvin's Farm to Fork store. I just want to give you a real short little rundown. It was absolutely fantastic. And hopefully some of you that are listening were there. We had the most edifying, informative, just awesome weekend. I mean, we were all wiping tears from our eyes and just praising God. It was so good. We had excellent speakers, of course, and they were all so inspiring. We will have most of our talks available online soon. Some of them something went wrong with the recording, but we have three talks available online on our YouTube channel. One with Farmer Thad, who gave the Sunday morning lesson. His wife, Gail, gave an excellent presentation about, it's kind of like a really God-inspired pantry clean out, really good talk. And then Kim Furman was so inspiring, and her talk, part 1 and part 2, are available also on YouTube. I would really encourage you to watch those. But here are just a couple of highlights. Okay, this is me talking. Let me go back to this. Just me giving my biblical nutrition talk. But this is Kim, who's a naturopathic doctor, and she and her husband, Jack, have Our Father's Farm in Southern Virginia, and she was the one who was just awesome and inspiring. All of our speakers were. Steve Hussey again, our chiropractor friend. These are just a couple of photos of the farm itself, and those calves were so stinking cute. The children loved them, and we just had great fellowship. Beautiful weather, good food. It was an awesome, awesome weekend. But today I'm going to welcome my friend Dustie Casuse. We're going to talk about the more practical side of eating healthy. I am part of the summit that Dustie has put together, Nourished on a Budget. The summit is happening May 5th through 25th. And we have quite a lineup of good speakers and excellent topics to try to make this whole transition, if you're transitioning, more doable, or to give you a lot of hints and helps along the way, even if you've been doing this for a while. But Dustie, I want to welcome you first. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to this point in your life where you're doing now your second summit.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me on here. I'm very excited, actually. I've been a practitioner for a very long time, and my clients always have the same 2 comments. Number 1 is, Dustie, it's so expensive. And number 2 is, how do I make it work with my busy schedule? So then I was like, you know what? I think that needs to be the next summit topic.
I agree. It is an excellent topic, and we really need it. I'm looking forward to not only presenting, but to learning from other people, because we all have so much to learn from each other. Mm-hmm. So what brought you to that point, though? Were you always health conscious?
Yes, I was. My dad's a chiropractor, so I grew up in the holistic world. However, so I thought that I was always nutritionally minded. So nutrition's been my passion since I was really young. My book of choice was always a nutrition book. And in high school, I was teaching people what I thought were correct nutrition principles for health. So I was reading like Ansel Keys studies and
oh man,
information that has been debunked. I was a product of the low fat, no fat. Like I did that.
Me too. Me too for years.
Felt worse than I ever have in my life. So I found Nourishing traditions when my first son was born, and he was born with severe allergies. And this is where I realized really quickly that I had no clue what good nutrition was. I tried everything in the book to help him. Nothing was working. And then when he was 3 years old, he was life-flighted from one hospital that could not get his wheezing to settle down over to Primary Children's Hospital. He was intubated even and stayed there for 3 days. And the doctors, again, I mean, I'd seen specialists, but they all kept saying he has to be on a steroid for the rest of his life, which would have stunted his growth, caused infertility, like the list went on. And my mommy heart was like, there's another option, like this is not it. And so I just fell to my knees and pleaded with Heavenly Father, like, please guide me to somebody who has my answers. And it was the very next day I went to a health food store, and there was a shopper that I had a really strong impression that I needed to talk to. So I walked up to her and I was like, this is going to be really strange or sound really strange, but this is what's going on for my son. And I have a feeling that you might have some answers. Can you help me?
Wow.
She looked at me and she like, I was like, oh, here it comes. She thinks I'm just some crazy woman in the grocery store. She looks down at her arm and she's like, I have goosebumps. She's like, I just healed myself of allergies. I was diagnosed borderline schizophrenic. I had bipolar, allergic to everything but like 3 foods, and I changed it around. She's like, you need to get the Nourishing Traditions cookbook, and you need to get gut and psychology syndrome.
There you go.
That was my entry. I didn't look back. After a week of implementing those things, his head to toe rash was cleared up that he'd had the majority of his life. He no longer needed an inhaler. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And this is hard. Yes. And I've got to teach this to everybody. And so I'm a practitioner and I've been like doing my own little thing, but like collaboration is where it's at. Because you've been in this industry for a long time. All these other speakers from my past couple summits have been, and I'm like, we could be so much louder and get this message out and weed out the confusion if we come together and scream it from the rooftops and be like, these are the correct principles. Here you go.
Yes. And I really resonate with all that you're saying, because I'm not even sure if I ever told you this, but my second son, Peter, was born with severe allergies, which I recognized as food intolerances, but I didn't understand it. And he also, like your son, was covered with rashes. And this was before gut and psychology syndrome. This predated the internet. And I had a really hard time. I knew that pills and potions were not the solution, but it was really hard back then to really get help. And we didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. So I, like you, was going to my natural food store, where fortunately we had an excellent store, Sonnewald Natural Foods, near York, Pennsylvania. And they had a resource center, and that was staffed with knowledgeable people who helped to guide me. But I was picking up the Townsend letter and this and that, and eventually the Adele Davis books. And it took me a few years, but I got his gut straightened out eventually. But the funny thing was, thankfully, he never was as serious as your son. I never had to actually take him to a hospital. But he was like having diarrhea all the time and rashes. It's heartbreaking when I think about it. So I'm not going to go too deeply into that. But just when I thought I had it figured out, then all of a sudden the rash came back and the diarrhea. And then I realized, oh man, now he's allergic to, I was giving him whole vitamin C. Now he's allergic to citrus, So anyway, that journey, I'm very familiar with it, and I don't use the term journey lightly, and I know you don't either. It is difficult to figure these things out. Thankfully, we have each other, and we have better resources now, like Nourishing Traditions, Gut and Psychology Syndrome, and a host of other things. It was just much harder decades ago than now. I'm so thankful that you're here and that there are others out there who are some of the speakers. I'm going to go back to this. Some of the speakers that you will have on the summit include.
So obviously yours truly. You are going to be in there.
Yeah.
So we got Sophia Ng, who has created a Nourishing Asian cookbook. So it's phenomenal, all based off of Nourishing Traditions. We have Nora, and oh gosh, I'm going to say her last name wrong. I got to read it. Let's see.
It's a hard one.
This is how you say it. So she's an author, has authored 3 books, is a best-selling author as well. works with the Price Pottinger Foundation.
Yeah.
We have Allison Kay, who has been doing the wise traditions or nourishing traditions for a very long time. She's teaching people basic, but like everybody knows oatmeal, right? But she puts a spin on it where you can actually maximize the nutritional value that you get from it. So as you and I know, and a lot of the listeners know, oatmeal's really hard to digest. It's a popular breakfast food, but it has to be properly prepared in order to get the nutrients from it. So she brilliantly teaches that. We have Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, who is the creator of the GAPS diet. She was on the last summit. She's on this one talking about some different things. Brilliant mind. We have Sarah Stutzman. I'll just read off the names. Carolyn Fossil, Cindy O'Mara, Janess Vaughn, Anissa Woodall, Allison Mraz, Leah Huber, Mary Schrader, Kate Johnson, Andrea Sprague, Amy Smith, Shireen Wadsworth, and Janelle Isaacson. And then we have 2 that are in the works, so they will be the mystery speakers.
That's interesting. And we'll be going over what are some of the topics. We talked about oatmeal.
Yeah. We have 2 speakers that are going to be teaching. One's going to do a liver pate and the other one a beef liver pate. So they are both convinced that it is the best pate you will ever taste.
I like my chicken liver pate, but I'll try this other one.
Yeah. So I personally do not like the taste of liver. And they're like, most people that hate liver like my pate. So I'm like, okay, bring it on.
Yeah, we're going to try it.
Yeah. So we have that. Cindy O'Mara is going to be teaching a bunch of different ferments. So she's like, you can go to the grocery store and spend a ton of money on these different probiotic pills or probiotic foods, or you can make them for a couple of dollars, at home. So she's going to be going through that. We have somebody teaching you how to take leftovers and repurpose them into meals. So she's going to make a salad it's a hearty salad. It's not just a fluffy salad, but nutrient-dense salad, and then make it into a soup later. We have an Italian wedding soup that's going to be prepared. That one sounds good. Nora is going to make she's not going to make it. She's not one that likes to be in front of the camera creating things in her kitchen. So she's going to give us the recipe, but she's with the Price Pottinger. So we'll have some demos for her, but her recipe that she's going to provide is a chili that has organ meats in it.
Yeah, good. That's something I do a lot. It's an easy way to get organ meats. Yeah.
She, however, has a secret on how to get liver in there without being able to taste it.
Okay. Oh, I'm excited to learn about that.
Yeah, I've never heard of this method before, so I'm excited to try that.
Good.
The list goes on. There's a lot of amazing recipes that we're going to be getting. There's a few desserts.
And I know when we recorded for this, you and I, we ran out of time. There was more to say, but and more to do. But I'm hopeful and optimistic. I think people will be touching on all of those things that will be helpful. But just for a moment, let's talk about some of these objections, because we hear them all the time, starting with, it's too expensive. I can't afford to feed my family like that. It's too expensive. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's different ways so my thing is maximizing the nutritional value of everyday foods. So there's things that you're already eating that are malnourishing you because you're not properly preparing them, right? Yeah. And so number one, that was one of the things, my objectives was teaching people how to properly prepare, to take beans and rice and grains and not demonize them because they've been so demonized. Like, okay, there are ways that you can eat this and it will cause inflammation and gut disruption. And there's a way that you can prepare it and source it where you can thrive and feel amazing. So we're going to be covering topics like that. And
that is super important because we're always hungry until our body gets the nutrients it needs. And if we're not preparing the proper foods properly, we're still going to be hungry and wanting more. And when I look at some of the thing that pops into my head is Latin America, rice and beans, rice and beans, rice and beans. And what we've seen is just rice and beans has largely displaced the more traditional foods where rice and beans were a part of a meal, not the center of the meal. And now we have obesity and diabetes and basically malnutrition and over consumption of carbohydrates to the detriment of our physical health. So rice and beans is the thing that people for decades have said is what we should be eating. It's a cheap food. It's a nourishing food. If you don't make it properly, it's none of those things, right?
Yeah, it's like corn too.
Yeah.
So the Spanish came to the Americas and were like, oh, this is from the Native Americans, they're like preparing all the maize and the different types of corn products. And they're like, this is delicious. Yeah. We want to bring this back. And so they brought it back to Spain and they started making it a staple food. And it, was kind of like corn syrup and, corn products are here in America, but they started to develop cholera and it became a huge crisis. And the government was getting together and was like, we got to do something about this. Like it's contagious and, we got to protect people. And then there was, I can't remember his name, but he's like, it's not contagious. He's like, I can prove it. I can take skin that's falling off of people that are infected and I will grind it up and I will swallow it and I'll show you I won't get it, which sounds disgusting. Like he had been so brave, but he was so convicted, I have the answer. And so he did, and he didn't get sick. And he had some of his people do it too. They didn't get sick. He's like, it's not that, it's a niacin deficiency. We are eating a ton of corn that does have niacin in it, but it's bound up because the Native Americans properly prepared the grain in a way that opened up the nutrients so that they can actually have it bioavailable to absorb. Where if you don't do that, you are becoming malnourished. And we are a society, we are actually a world of malnourishment in the abundance of food. And it's evident because we have our statistics here in the United States is 1 in 3 children have a diagnosable condition, which is getting worse. And 1 in 5 adults have at least 2. And people are afraid that this is going to be the first generation that will not outlive their parents because they are so sick. And we can look back to the evolution of food with, the way that we've gone to everything being boxed and packaged and, quick and easy and fast. And then that's normal. And the only way we can change that paradigm and shift it is if as many of us can get out there and teach this to as many people as we possibly can and shift this.
And you've touched on something also where you take something like corn and the Native Americans and the Peruvians and the, Central Americans, all of those people, when they were eating corn, they nixamated corn to release. They didn't understand this. It's funny. They didn't understand it. It's just how they did things. They figured it out. But, when we abandon traditional methods as well as traditional foods, we're losing nutrient value. And then that contributes to, we can say that this food is expensive, but it's really not, because it's actually expensive to not be getting enough nutrition and to be ill because of it. And cholera or beriberi are two very good examples of that. If we're not able to incorporate the nutrients or acquire generally the nutrients our body needs, we're going to be sick. And there's a high cost to being sick. So to me, it's a trade-off, right? And I know you agree on that. We can spend a little more on the front end and actually save a lot of financial, a lot of monetary. We're at a monetary advantage if we are strong and healthy and not having to be sick and not able to work, not able to function, and having to spend money on medicine that isn't good for us anyway. So, but does good food actually have to be all that expensive anyway?
There's different ways that you can do it, as we talked about in the conference. So there are tips and tricks on getting inexpensive, nutrient dense, even pasture raised or organic produce from farmers markets and even grocery stores that we touch upon. So when you go into the grocery store, like the health food stores, and you're buying, again, the boxed stuff because it says organic and all the prepared dressings because, we're used to quick and easy. that does add up. But the transition between like the standard American diet and quick and easy to the traditional diet, which does take time, is like a transformative method where you can start small and just start to introduce one new thing until it becomes a habit, and then another new thing. As long as like you're progressing towards something that is going to be, you know, leading you to vibrant health, you're on a good track. And that can include making your own homemade salad dressings, which really does not take time. It's just making your own ferments, you know, even properly preparing grains. Like some people are like, oh, it takes so long, but it's like, if you have your weekly menu, which number one, if you do that, it's going to save you time because you'll be organized on what you're making. Number two, you can meal prep and just spend a few hours in the kitchen. You're like, okay, this is all the vegetables that I need cut up for the week. Just do it all at once, cook the meat, you know, different things like that. And then as long as you're like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to have beans, then you can soak them the night before, which is just what, like a couple minutes to pour it in and put your stuff together. So you have to be prepared. And then it really doesn't take a ton of time.
No, and I think you can also even add more nutritive value to rice and beans, as an example, just by cooking with stock instead of plain water. And using good fats. So you're getting the fat soluble activators like lard, olive oil, of course, butter, you know, all of those things. So you can take actually something as simple and inexpensive as organic rice and organic beans, prepare them properly and and they taste fantastic, and you actually get solid nutrition out of them. And so your body's not craving more, telling you to eat, because it still needs more nutrition. And that's what our bodies do. And we end up really coming out ahead, don't we?
Yeah. Well, and you can also add in a pound of that expensive pasture-raised meat. And then make several meals out of it. So instead of it being the price for just one meal, it's the price for 4, which then makes it inexpensive.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. You can really stretch. Take one chicken, for instance. You can eat it for dinner. You can have leftovers for chicken salad. And then you can make stock. You can make chicken soup. You can do dozens of other things with it. So you really stretch your grocery dollar. So it's going to be interesting to hear some of the speakers and learn some of their tips and tricks. And then, of course, the other side of that is the time, the economics of time. And people do think it takes just endless hours, but simple, good, nutritious foods both taste good, and they don't have to take a long time to prepare. So what are some things, for instance, in your household that you've done to make that a little bit easier? Or what are some keys and important information, little tidbits you might want to share?
I love making homemade yogurt. I get the raw milk, which people will argue is expensive. I argue it's not expensive enough for the value that it provides. So, but
a note on that. I'm gonna interrupt, and I don't normally do that, but I just want to point out, don't lose that thought. Raw milk is not expensive. Conventional milk is both harmful and subsidized with our tax dollars. That's why it's so much cheaper. A lot of the foods that are not good for us are subsidized, and that's why they're cheap. So when we recognize the value of something, we need to be willing to pay the fair price to the farmer or the producer, because they're not getting the subsidies that the conventional farmers and producers are getting. Okay, so that aside, go ahead. I'm sorry, just a
little bit on that topic. So, I'm going to be preparing a yogurt for everybody, and I've tried several different ones, and the one that I do all the time now is nice and thick without having to strain out the whey. So it's fantastic. But I also will be talking, because everybody doesn't have access to raw milk. And so I will be talking about ways that you can still make really great yogurts without having to source the raw milk, and make them really good probiotic living foods with all the enzymes you need. So there's a little intro to what I'll be talking about. So, but yeah, I'll talk to people. I'll be like, okay, if you go to the grocery store and you get like a thing of yogurt, how much is it? And then like, okay, if you get a gallon's worth, how much is that? and it's well over the $13 for the gallon of milk, you know, where I'm at. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And if you get the one that's not organic, look at all the crap that's in it that's adding to health problems, you know, inflammation and gastrointestinal problems. It's not really feeding you the way that you need to be fed. And it's spiking your blood sugar because of the sugars that they use. But if you spend that money, or if you get like an organic brand, then you're going to be spending like as much as you would for 2 gallons or more of the raw milk. So making it yourself is not hard. It's actually very simple, and you save a ton of money. So that's a staple in my kitchen. I do like if I have herbs that I buy, I like to just clip the ends of it, put it in a jar of water, and then I'll use the plastic bag that it came in, and I'll put it over the top of it and put an elastic around it and keep it in my fridge.
Okay.
It stays fresh a lot longer.
Yeah.
Potatoes, actually, our ancestors used to properly prepare potatoes as well. Which sounds so strange, but I mean, it's full of all sorts of starches and anti-nutrients. And so they would take the potatoes, they would tie them up, and they would put them in the stream, and they would leave them there for up to like a month or longer. And the water from the river, like it just helped ferment them. And then they would cook them and eat them. So
that is so cool.
Yeah. I learned this from Bill Schindler, actually, because I went to his restaurant and he had potato chips that were properly prepared, fermented, and then fried in lard. Pigs. So amazing restaurant.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't been there yet.
Haven't. Oh, so good. So then I tried it myself. So I started to cut my potatoes and prepare them for the week. And then I would put them in a saltwater brine and just let them sit on my counter for a few days and then transfer them into my fridge.
Okay.
And then they're ready to go. They've been neutralized. The interesting thing is they don't brown. The Maillard effect of the browning that causes aging and can be a disruptive component to the gut, it doesn't do that, which is the first time I made it, I was like, is it done? Like, it's been cooking for so long, but I ate it and it was still delicious. So so that's another staple that I do.
Wow. We had fermented potato chips fried in lard on our menu this past weekend. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, so I didn't get to taste them, and I've never made them. But now, talking to you, I'm really curious. I want to try that.
Yeah,
that's really neat.
Oh, another thing that I do too is I'll get like a really good quality bacon, and after I fry it, I save the lard.
Oh yes, the bacon fat. I just did that this morning. I bake off my bacon in the oven, a pound at a time, and then I pour off the fat, and you can use that in so many ways. What are some things you do with it?
Well, I just cook with it. And I made mayonnaise with it.
That's mayonnaise and salad dressing.
I haven't done a salad dressing yet. I need to do that.
Yeah, that's good. I got about a third of a cup today off of what I fried, and I didn't fry, but I baked.
Yeah,
I'm hanging on to that to make salad dressing. It is so good, especially if you put sour cream in the salad dressing as well. Wow.
That's good. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
I have lots of different ferments going on in my house too. And I haven't made a salad dressing with kombucha. That's on my to-do list. Have you done that?
I haven't I don't know if I have or I haven't, but I routinely use brine from my ferments for the salad dressing and the mayonnaise. Yeah. So I do that a lot, but not the other. Whey, I've used whey often, but I like the brine from a ferment because you get the flavor from the ferment. So sometimes it's kimchi, maybe it's salsa, and I'm doing something Mexican, but yeah.
I was going to mention, I don't think anybody's mentioning it in the conference, but it's a good to know little tidbit that for people that sign up for the VIP, we're going to be doing like every week a little good to know tip. So we can like slowly start to educate people just in small bite-sized pieces. Yeah. But one of the good to know things that I learned from the Nourishing Traditions cookbook was if you are cooking and frying things that are browning, so like your meat on the barbecue, or if you're frying potatoes that do turn brown and you have that Maillard effect, or on the grill, you have a carcinogenic factor that occurs. through the brewing. If you pair it with something fermented, it neutralizes the carcinogen. And so
I didn't remember that. Yeah.
So traditionally, that's why the Germans would put sauerkraut on their brats. And we have ketchup and mustard with our burgers. It used to be fermented.
Yes.
Condiments. Yeah. And then we, again, change things. We're like, oh, we've got a better idea that's faster than the ferments.
Isn't that crazy? Because all of our better ideas have actually proved to be detrimental and expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually filmed a fermented condiments course last year, but I'm going to redo it.
Yeah.
But that's good to point out. Ketchup, mustard, salsa, I don't know, on and on. Of course, it used to be that people ate ferments every day at every meal. And I try to replicate that in my kitchen. I'm not good. It's not every single meal, but we usually have yogurt and or kefir for as part of breakfast. Maybe I make a smoothie and sauerkraut. And another reason for the sauerkraut, the ferment, it's not just the Maillard effect is the caramelization of carbohydrates when you're cooking a food, which typically is delicious. It's wonderful. But aside from that, the thing with things like bratwurst is that pork, when we eat pork, it can change the clumping of our red blood cells. But if you consume a ferment with the pork, everything flows nicely and stays the way it should be. There's an article that we have on the Weston A. Price Foundation website about that. I believe it was Beverly Rubik that did a study on that very thing. She did a blood sampling. What do you call it? Live blood cell analysis. Yeah, and she found that with pork in particular, pork and I think shellfish, yes, when you consume them on their own, that the red blood cells tend to clump within 30 minutes to an hour. But if you consume a ferment with those foods, then the blood cells are just free flowing and normal.
Interesting.
So that's, and sometimes when I think about clean and unclean foods, I think, well, I eat what's considered like our bacon, right? Unclean foods, but I do consume sauerkraut with it. And actually I'm doing a workshop tomorrow that includes sauerkraut and I'm looking forward to making a bunch, but I like to just drink the brine. Do you do that?
Yeah. The brine's gone first. I actually will add a little bit of filtered water. Like I'll get if I have to buy it and I have the container, there's not a lot of juice. And so we do like to drink it, but then I'll add a little bit of water and let it sit out.
Yeah.
Add a little bit of salt. Like I try and make it last as long as I possibly can. So, because ferments can be forever. I was talking to a guy who changed, Sally Fallon has changed my paradigm on food and like what is doable sitting on the counter for days.
Yeah.
And not being bad. But I had a guy from Australia. We were just kind of geeking out on different holistic nutrition components. And he was talking about how he had a forever pot of fermented vegetables. And he said that he's had it for 5 years. And he started it originally in it. And then for dinner every day, their family would spoon out some on their plate. He would cut some fresh vegetables, throw it in, add a little bit of salt and water, stir it, cover it, and leave it there. And I was like, okay, this has been sitting there for 5 years. I'm like, did it like grow anything on the top? He's like, sometimes like it'll get like a white layer on
the top. Which is calm yeast, which is harmless, and you just scoop it off and toss it.
That's what he said. And I was like, like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
like,
the only Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's nice to talk to people who have already experienced it so they can say, oh, you're not going to die if you eat it.
Right. I was going to say the only thing to be careful about is when the solids come above the level of the brine, then they can get moldy. And you do want to toss that.
Yeah.
Because that can be harmful. But that white yeast, which people mistake as mold, that is totally harmless. Mm-hmm. So you can just scoop it off and toss it. I did learn the hard way that if I'm using stones to weigh down my ferments, I need to sterilize the stones, or I may be introducing some beasties that are not good. I had to toss out about a gallon of sauerkraut once for that reason. But we tend to do things, if not by the gallon, by the 5 gallons, and then they last. My grandchildren sit at the table and they will chow on sauerkraut.
Yeah.
Even our baby, who's the granddaughter who's 10 months old, she just really likes it.
Can I share a story on that?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. So I had a client, and when my clients come see me, I change their diet. And one of the first things that comes in is sauerkraut juice. And then after a few weeks, then the actual kraut. And I told this one client, that was the protocol. And she's like, I can't, like anything else I'll do, Dusty, but I cannot do sauerkraut. I hate it. And I was like, okay, let's shift your mind around this for a minute. I was like, I want you to just do like a few ounces of the sauerkraut juice. And I want you to think of it as a supplement, not a food.
Yes.
And you're going to have 2 ounces with each meal. And if you need to like swallow some water down with it, go for it or whatever. But I was like, I need you to understand the concept though. We are outnumbered 10-to-1 microbes to one of our cells. And these cravings and dislikes are coming from your bacteria in the gut. It's like right now with your health problems, you have a whole slew of adverse bacteria that are causing these cravings and dislikes, and they're not serving you. As you shift and you start having things like the sauerkraut juice and these different fermented foods, and you take out the processed crap that they thrive on, eventually you're going to kill them off. And as you kill them off, you're going to start to rebuild and repopulate the beneficial bacteria colonies, and you will start to thrive and crave the foods that they want for them to thrive. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to trust you on this one. And so I was like, okay, thank you. Okay, I know what I'm talking about. Thank you. And so it was 3 weeks later, she called me up, just laughing her head off. She's like, I have to tell you something. I was like, I know what you're going to say. She's like, I love sauerkraut. I mean, I'm enough of it.
Wonderful. Oh, good. And that actually addresses a point that I make often that goes along with the summit. And that is food as medicine. Food is medicine. And so even something as simple as the brine from sauerkraut, it can correct imbalances in your gut. It can clear constipation. It can break down fats and proteins in your gut so that you're assimilating the nutrients. And then you're saving money. You're not having to go to the doctor for, I had one person come to me asking, she's been constipated since she was a child and she's now a much older woman. And she wanted some help. What should she do? And the first thing I recommended was sauerkraut brine. She actually likes sauerkraut, but instead of buying the Miralax and all of the things that she had been buying, I said, just sauerkraut brine. And eat the kraut, but at the very least to drink the brine. It's maybe pennies, probably not even pennies per dose. So that's so much better than buying a supplement that's supposed to make you regular. I've been seeing a lot of those lately online. Have you?
Oh, no, I haven't.
It's been coming up. I've been getting ads for some supplements that they're probably pretty decent, but they're expensive. And all we really need is something like a ferment to accomplish the same thing that these expensive supplements are designed for. So we can save money there. Food is medicine.
Yes. Oh, I wanted to bring up one other point real quick.
Yeah.
Time we have on this thing, but
a little bit, but
yeah. I go into this in more detail too in my segment of the summit, but you can eat the most immaculately raised, perfect, nutrient-dense foods, but if your digestion isn't working properly, it doesn't do you any good.
Right.
So you have to understand, you have to have enough digestive enzymes and acids to be able to break it down. And so I just wanted to give this little tip that if you are having a really good quality apple cider vinegar with each meal, And even the sauerkraut or like kombucha, these ferments can help increase the amount of breakdown that you have from the foods so that you can actually absorb the nutrients much better. So that's another byproduct of it. So
yeah, that's something that I talk a lot about too, because the enzymes that are in the live foods, the fermented foods, that is one of the roles that they play, as you mentioned. Yeah, it's breaking down fats and proteins, especially, and making the nutrients bioavailable while they cleanse the gut and stabilize the microbiome and help the liver to detoxify. There's so much that they do.
Yeah. Yes, they do. And everybody is turning, like people are getting heartburn, not recognizing that it's too little acid and not too much. And so they're turning to antacids like it's candy, and it's making the problem worse. And their doctors are prescribing them because they don't understand this whole mechanism. I had a guy that was giving off a list of different things. He's like, my stomach hurts every time I eat. I have some bacteria that's coming up my esophagus, and now it's getting into my mouth. And I had to explain the concept that, you know, we need to have enough acid in our stomach to not only break down our food, but also to kill off any of the bacteria or parasites or things that are on our food. And when we don't have enough acid, like the reason I bring up this like terrible story here is because like just to know that if you are taking antacids all the time, this could possibly happen, where now he has a stomach that's full of bacteria that should have never been there in the first place. So he's not digesting anything. And it's been there for so long that now it's creeping up his esophagus and into his mouth and making it really hard for him to even eat any food. So obviously that's not a good thing. We do need acid 100%. So oftentimes, I don't know, it's like such a small percentage of people who have too much acid. But if you have apple cider vinegar with your meals, going down, it kind of burns a little bit. If you don't dilute it, that's normal. But if it's sitting in your stomach several minutes later and it's burning, then you know you have too much acid. But again, like I have never seen a case of somebody having too much acid. I've read it in books that it's just a small percentage. But if it doesn't burn, then you know, okay, actually, if I'm getting heartburn, it's because I need more acid, which is counterintuitive. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I remember my late friend, Jerry Brunetti. He was really well known in the sustainable ag and general health circuits. And he was telling me once about his brother-in-law who had acid reflux, and his doctor told him to go on a very low salt diet. Jerry said, no, you need the salt to produce more hydrochloric acid to digest your food so that it all passes through properly. And if you don't, you're setting yourself up for catastrophe. His brother-in-law followed the doctor's advice and died of a gastric cancer. I don't remember what exactly, but he went on a low salt diet. The acid reflux only got worse. And then the bad guys proliferated and he ended up with a cancer and he died from that. So I don't know. Sometimes I just want to take the advice of the doctor and turn and run and do the exact opposite thing, which is what Jerry was telling his brother-in-law to do. Food is medicine. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can actually save us money. And in keeping us healthy and strong, then we're able to function. We're able to reproduce. We're able to recover when we do have an illness. And so the high cost of food is not so high when you understand what it's actually saving us, keeping it simple. Are there some key nutrients? And I think apple cider vinegar is probably going to be one of these things you would say, but are there some key things, if you could say 3 things, ferments, which apple cider vinegar counts, right? What else would you say that are important for everyone?
Yeah, in the United States, actually it's more North America, the majority of people have the BDR genetic mutation, which doesn't allow us to properly use vitamin D. And so we become calcium deficient because there's a whole relationship with vitamin D ushering the calcium back into the bone. So let me go into this a little bit. So when our blood becomes very acidic from eating sugar, stress. These are some things, processed foods, creates our blood to become more acidic. The body triggers to the bone, hey, release calcium into the blood because calcium will neutralize the acidity. So this happens. Yeah. And then once it's neutralized, the vitamin D is supposed to usher the calcium back into the bone. But what happens is because of the VDR mutation, we have a misshapen gene that is not transporting vitamin D properly. So I like to explain, I mean, everybody has their different analogies, but this one makes sense to most people. So if you have a vehicle that's meant just for the vitamin D, and it's missing the undercarriage and it's missing the sides, well, vitamin D can go in, it's just going to fall right through, and the transport can go to where it needs to go, but the vitamin D is way over here, right? And so people can oftentimes have all the symptoms of a vitamin D deficiency, but go to get their labs done, and their labs show, oh, your vitamin D is sufficient. It's really good. Well, there's a whole concept between vitamin D that's free floating aimlessly and vitamin D that's actually being utilized. So you can either be too low or too high and have, if you have the symptoms and you have the deficiency. And so with the mutation, you have to have the cofactors. So the cofactors are vitamin K2, which would be the doors, and vitamin A, which would be the undercarriage. And so now when the vitamin D comes in, it's secure and it can go to where it needs to go. Yeah. And so people will be like, okay, like I'm going to take my vitamin D because I know how important it is for immunity. And I mean, a whole lot of other things, state of mind, all these things. So taking the vitamin D, again, it's going to just raise up the vitamin D levels in your blood, but it's not going to go to where it needs to go because you have to have those cofactors. So the reason I bring that up is because liver has all three of those. And raw milk from rapidly grazing, the grass in the spring and fall, when the cows graze on that, it increases the vitamin A and K2. So we have these whole foods that God knew, were important for the synergistic properties for us to consume in whole form to provide us with the building blocks we need. And so if we're not eating these foods that are providing it for us, then we're going to become more depleted, and then we're going to have arthritis and, low bone density. We're going to have depression, and, the list goes on and on, low immunity. So knowing that, like the next food I would say would be liver or the raw milk so that you can get those.
I always say, you've probably even heard me say that God put everything in a package. So when we separate, we're losing the pieces that carry the nutrients into our cells and wherever they're needed. So it's a whole food. And that's why we love the fermented cod liver oil also. And I just took my capsule. I like that.
That's the only one I like, the cinnamon tinge.
I do like that one too. That's the one that I keep on hand most of the time. But I also travel with the capsules that are butter oil combined with the fermented cod liver oil. And we have links for that. GGT10 gives you 10% off your order as well. But that's the whole package. It's everything that you mentioned. And then emu oil also is very high in K2, higher than cod liver oil. So sometimes we need even a little bit more, but take it. I say food before supplements, and cod liver oil and liver generally are whole foods, the whole package, exactly what we need. And it acts as medicine. So
where do you source your emu oil?
Walkabout Emu. They're out of Wisconsin. Walkabout Emu. It's a very, very high, product with vitamin K2, very high, as well as D and A. And so, and people get tired of me saying it, but of course, true vitamin A, as you know, only doesn't come from a plant, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No. So we need the fully formed vitamin A. So there again, the emu oil has it, the fermented cod liver oil has it. A good cod liver oil that has not been distilled and purified and all of that and monkeyed with will have it also. But I think that the better sources are fermented cod liver oil and the Walkabout Emu oil, for instance. Do you have other sources?
No, I haven't. It's hard to find a really good quality emu oil because most of them are factory raised. So,
I will put a link for that. It might not be immediate. I've been meaning to do that. And I'm also intending on interviewing Liz Schlinsog. She and her husband, he's a chiropractor, and they carry the walk about emu oil. We'll put a link. I've just been forgetting to do it. So let this be a reminder. Yeah, but we've covered a lot of territory in the last nearly hour. And so we're going to wrap it up. I actually am headed to speak at a conference, Seeking Whole Health. Maybe I'll see some of our listeners there. But Dustie, it's been a pleasure. And we will be posting. Erin did put the link up for the summit, and we'll post more, and we'll talk about it more next week. And I still have one thing to give you yet.
That's okay. We've got time.
I'm home next.
Not a lot, but a little bit.
No, well, thank you for that. I'm home for a week and a half once I come back on Sunday night. So, yeah. And then there's another baby coming in our household. So I'm going to get it in the early part of the week. But anyway, I will encourage our listeners to check out the summit. And where can they find you besides our summit?
Nourishing Chefs on Instagram.
Yeah. Nourishing Chefs. That's a good one. I love your name, the title.
Yeah. I have to be honest. I am not very good at social media. Like all my posts take me like a whole day. I have 5 kids, and I'm like a whole day to do one post. I'm like, okay, I gotta like maximize my time, like the bang for my buck. so that's why I started to do the summit. So yeah, we got the summit. You can use Maureen's link to get to, and then I am hiring an assistant to do I'm good at filming, and I have a ton of stuff on my phone, just putting it into content to load. So I will have somebody helping me with that. So there will be.
You and I are so alike in that. And Erin and I have just discussed it. No, we need to actually hire an assistant. Somehow we need to hire an assistant. So we're in the same boat as you. I've got lots on my phone, and she's got lots recorded on the hard drive, including that fermented condiments course and a fermented beverages course and a few other things. Yep. Just getting it up there. So I understand it's, for both of us and most of us, we're busy people.
Yes, we are.
And we will be talking very soon about the need to slow down, to chill. I have a book here, actually. I'm going to interview the author of this book, Slow Down to Heal and Thrive, or to truly live. Anyway, that's an important part of being healthy as well. So Dustie, thank you so very much. And thank you to our listeners. We're very grateful for each of you. If you like this video, please do actually like and subscribe if you haven't. And please do share the summit information with your friends. It's really going to be good. I'm excited for the summit. I'm very thankful, Dustie, that you put it together, because it is very, very needed, very important. And I think it's going to go well. So
thank you. I'm excited. Thanks for having me, Maureen. Sure love and appreciate you and everything you do.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to do more, back off on some other things. And, we're both trying to find ways to help people. And to the best of our abilities. So we have a pre-recorded interview coming up with Pam Schoenfeld. Hang on, Dustie, and I'll be right back with you. We have a pre-recorded interview with Pam and a couple of other things coming up. I will be, as I mentioned, at Seeking Whole Health this weekend in Worcester, Ohio. And then I will be at the Off-Grid with Doug and Stacy Homesteading Life Conference in not Hannibal, Missouri, but Vandalia, Missouri, in the middle of the month. So you can check that out. We have all of our events, everything that we're participating in, on our events page on the website. And of course, everything that we recommend and use ourselves is on our resource page. So please, again, thank you. Please do share, and God bless. We'll see you next week. Thank you.